So I finally got Clayface, one of the newest DC Multiverse Mega Figures. But is he any good, and is he worth your money? Be sure you stick around, soulmates, because we're going to talk about what Mega Figures we want to see next from DC Multiverse. If you support what I do, please click subscribe and hit the bell for notifications so you don't miss a single video of mine when it comes out. Right away, taking this thing out of the box, you can feel the weight on him. He is a very heavy action figure. He's not all that tall compared to the other Mega Figures you see from DC Multiverse. But when you look at him from the side, boy, he's really wide. I was thinking to myself it would have been nice to have some accessories like an extra hand or two, but looking at the package, I don't know how they would have fit it in there. Clayface has a lot of texture on him. Everywhere you look on this action figure, there is something going on. You can see little skull imprints on his chest, you can feel spikes on his arms, and it's actually kind of hard to move his arms and his legs sometimes because those spikes are there and they kind of dig into your hands. It's kind of nice, but also a little painful at the same time. And all around him, there's this texture that makes it look like the mud is just sliding off of him. It looks grotesque, and it's just awesome. He's another action figure that has jaw articulation, and the only other one I can think of right now that does have that is King Shark. And it's kind of nice to have the jaw articulation on Clayface because it almost makes it like he's got an extra head. He's got the screaming face when his jaw is down, and it looks really gross because his teeth are kind of poking out. It looks like his lips are just falling off his face. But when you close his mouth, it's got this very stern appearance, like he's on the hunt for Batman. Where is the Batman? He's trying to find him. The sculpt is incredible overall, but one thing I'm ambivalent about are the hands. It feels like more could have been done with the hands because they're both kind of the same, and I think it might have been more fun to have one hand that's a little different than the other. I mean, they are a little different from each other, but they both kind of have the same shape. And it's really great if you want to have Clayface just grabbing Batman like they're in a struggle, but if you want to have him doing a punch or something, it doesn't look as good that way. So the sculpt is pretty good, but how is the articulation? Well, a lot of the articulation gets sacrificed here in favor of aesthetics, which honestly I prefer. I would rather have a very well done action figure with lots and lots of detail on it than I would a whole bunch of articulation. That said, he does have a lot of articulation on him, but the one place where it gets hampered the most is on his arms, because he can't really bend his elbows all that much with all the shapes and details getting in the way. You can bend his arms a little bit at the elbows, and they also have a swivel on them, so it gives you a few more options than you might think, but still, they don't have a lot of range. You can also do the same with Clayface's hands. There's a swivel, and of course, there's that wrist articulation. But he is hampered by having some details that get in the way, so if you happen to have his wrist land on a certain detail that's extending over onto the hand, then you can't really bend his wrist up, so you gotta get it situated just right. One of the neat things about Clayface's articulation is that he kind of has butterfly joints, even though he doesn't really, because he's got a lot of movement in his shoulders. So you can make Clayface extend his arms and they can almost touch each other. He can grab Batman very easily. That said, his shoulders do have a lot of movement, so you can also just flare them out so that he's doing a big surprise pose. His abdomen has a surprising amount of play in it too. He's got a big rubber piece in the middle of him that is totally hollow, so you can make him bend forward quite a bit, and you can also make him bend back too. You might want to be careful doing that though, because that rubbery piece in the middle can right up into his upper torso a little bit if you bend forward really far. Aside from that, he's also got a lot of movement bending side to side and twisting back and forth. So I was really impressed here by that. The legs are another place where I was really impressed with what they did on this one, because there is a shocking amount of action in his hips. Sometimes on DC Multiverse action figures you can't twist the hips all that much, but on Clayface there's a lot of movement there. You can flare his legs out so he's practically doing a split, you can twist his leg in and out quite a bit, and then at his knees they're single jointed but they also have a swivel. So again, he's got more movement than you think he would. It's pretty obvious to me that they were compensating for the stiffness of the arms by adding a lot of articulation in other places. Obviously, Clayface is very top heavy, and so his feet do not have articulation. They're kind of just big piles of mud on the end of his legs, and this really helps him keep a base while you're posing him around, so he doesn't fall all that much unless you have him in some awkward positions. The weakest piece of articulation on Clayface for me was probably the head, because you can turn it a little bit and you can move it side to side a little bit, but it doesn't really do all that much. His torso really doesn't allow for it. So I'm not sure why they didn't do more with it, or why they didn't just get rid of the head articulation entirely, but it's there. It's nice to have. Finally, the paint apps on Clayface look really good. There's a lot of shading on this one, and there's a lot of little orangey highlights on him, and it really makes him look like a big pile of dirt. It's wonderful to look at. This is one of the better painted DC Multiverse figures, I think. They even got the little details on his teeth and his eyes right, and the inside of his mouth is even a darker color, so that it contrasts nicely with the mud of his body. Overall, guys, I'm a huge fan of this action figure, and I think this is one of the best Mega figures that McFarlane Toys has put out in the DC Multiverse line, and I highly recommend you check this one out. If you see it out there, you guys gotta get it. I've really been enjoying Clayface, and I think I have to give him an A tier. I feel like there's still a little bit of room for improvement, but not a lot. It feels like they've gotten just about everything right. The only thing that could really improve this one is maybe some adjustments to the articulation and a couple of accessories for his hands. Well, Soulmates, now that we've gotten Clayface, what DC Multiverse action figure do we want to see next? Personally, I would love to see a gigantic Doomsday Mega Figure. I think having a big hulking version of Doomsday to pose up against a new version of Superman would just be awesome. Alternatively, some versions of Brainiac are absolutely enormous, and I would not be opposed to seeing him either. I just want to see some more Superman villains, please. Well, Soulmates, what do you think of Clayface? Is this one that you want for your collection? Are you into DC Multiverse Mega Figures? Or are you just not feeling this one for some reason? Whatever it is, guys, let me know in the comment section. I would love to hear from you what you think about this one. And don't forget to let me know what character you would love to see as a Mega Figure next. If you want to learn more about the last DC Multiverse Mega Figure I revealed, you can check out my Swamp Thing review here.